Okay, welcome to your grounded movement session. Here we're just going to practice a few different exercises for a really restorative, grounded session so that we can be in touch with our bodies but also in touch with the ground as well and how our bodies move with the ground. So I invite you to take your shoes off and your socks off so we're connected, and then we just need ourselves and a bit of time and space. Make sure that you're not aiming for perfection on any of these exercises. We're here to explore and play with it, okay, and make sure we've just got a few minutes at the end where you can just experiment with some of the exercises we've done and put it into your own flow and action. Let's just get started with it. So the first one we're going to do is just a bit of a body check-in. So we're going to come down into this nice low position and we're just going to start in a kneeling back position, great for the ankles, and then we're just going to be going through and we're just going to check out into our necks. So we're just going to take some nice deep breaths. I encourage you throughout the session to just do some nasal breathing, okay? So see how you get on. Don't hold it as a must, but if you can, breathe through the whole session in and out through your nose, okay? And that will be really good for inflating the lungs, building up all the different chemicals that we need to. We'll explain a little bit as we go along. So the first one, we're just going to take some nice inhalations in through the nose and out through the nose as well, okay, just to settle the body down. And then we're just going to do some head tilts from left to right. So we're just going to start off nice and easy and just keep on checking in with the body, see where the tightnesses are, okay? So you can always just move from left to right nice and gently, and then using the hand a little bit, and then just lifting the upper chest up a little bit higher. So we're just keeping in that posture, head tilts up and down, and we're just going to go through a couple of these nice simple exercises to begin with, just to take stock, relax, sink in with our bodies, connecting with the earth at the same time. Okay, interlace the lock the fingers, and we're just going to go for a nice big stretch out forwards. Allow the shoulder blades to part, and then relax, and then just push out. Try and sync the breathing with each of these exercises. So push out and breathe out at the same time. And then as you bring the arms back in, breathe back in, and then we're going to do the same, but with this time we're just going to go straight up with that interlocking fingers and come back down, and then push straight up and come back down, straight up and come back down. That's great. We're just going to go for some shoulder rolls now. This feels great, just to activate the back of the shoulders into those good postures. Nice deep breaths. And just allow the body to sink. Bit of time and space for you just to relax. Check in with the body. See how it's feeling today. I want you to have that intention as well that you're going to work with the body, not against it. So we're just going to see what energy you have today. And you might have a lot of energy, so you can work some of the movements a little bit harder. You might be feeling a bit jaded, so you might have to relax and just take the movements a little bit more steady and gentle. Let's see how you feel. Okay, so bigger arm swivels onto there, so just nice big opening up the chest. Through on there. Last couple of exercises now for the body check-in. And then whilst we're still seated, we're going to place one hand behind you and then just reach from left to right. That's lovely. So just really feeling that. And again, just work into where you're feeling tight. Be conscious of how the body is feeling in those certain positions. We're not aiming for perfection. So each movement can be slightly different. And that's the whole point. Lovely. Okay, so next one, we're just going to move into this kneeling position. So I want you to come up onto the kneel, okay, and just extend the body, keeping the core relatively tight, engaging the glutes, those buttock muscles nice and tight into that position. And then we're just going to practice a little bit of balancing. So we're just going to lift up one knee and balance, and then we're just going to lift up the other knee and balance, and just see how that feels. Play with that action in that position. So see where your eyes have to fix onto a certain point to help that balance. As you come a little bit more, then what we're going to do is we're just going to step the leg up forwards, and then step the leg back, and then step the leg forwards. Nice easy movements, and just see how that feels, waking up the nervous system on each of those. Great. And then we're just going to add a little bit more of a stretch into that. So as you lift the foot up, we're just going to dive down into that motion, come back, step up, and then dive back down into that stretch. Really nice for loosening up the hips. And then just play around with the angle. So move the foot slightly out to the side, see how that feels. Is there a little bit more tightness through the groin or the adductors? Again, just maintaining that nice posture. Have a little check in with yourself. How's that nasal breathing going? Are you still doing it? Have you forgotten to keep on breathing through the nose? Have we just gone back to that mouth breathing? It's fine, no judgment. Just bring it back and see if you can still breathe through that nose all the way through that session. I'll give you a couple of reminders as we're going along. It's a fantastic thing to do. I can't really at the moment because I'm blabbering on as always. But step through. I'll just do a few more before moving into the next section. Okay, so it's really nice just to balance, work on that one, see where your body's at, and then to start stepping into different directions, moving the weight into there. Once we've done that one, we're just going to come down and we're going to go for these spinal bends or articulation. So we're going to move down now, and we're going to make a nice contact with the hands, okay, into all that all fours, and then we're just going to drop the spine, okay, by twisting the pelvis and then rotating up, tucking the tailbone under, and see how it feels. If you move the head and neck, can you extend that motion a little bit more? And then, as we've done a few of those, exaggerate the motion, and then we're just going to put a little bit more so you can sit back and then drive forward over the top of those arms in each of those. So we're just getting a little bit more movement pattern, and you feel the stretch through the shoulders as well. So you want to stay nice and grounded. We don't want to drop down here, we want to push down against the ground, so we elevate and drive those shoulder blades right up into that right position. Again, you don't want to overlock the elbows, but we're keeping nice and strong, nice and straight, and then just that dip forward and come back into that position. We'll just go for a few more of those bends, bending the back forward and backwards. To exaggerate that a little bit more, we can just push all the way down into the ground, see how that feels, and then extend up and pushing the heels down into the ground, arching the back, move into a presser position, go back up. Don't have to, just see how you feel. You can stay on those knees if you want to. Sometimes it's nice just to get up onto those toes and feel that stretch and that movement pattern a little bit more. Again, it's just about playing, moving with the body and not against it. Great. Okay, so here we're going to go back into this nice good stance here. Okay, so that all four position. Okay, and once you're in that all four position, I want you to just lift up the opposite arm, opposite leg. Okay, just keep nice and steady, nice and controlled in that position. Come back down and then just experiment with the other side. How do you have to squeeze your core and your abdominals to hold that position? How do you have to push down on the ground with your hand? Good. Experiment there. Come down, can you touch the knee and then extend back up? Try that on the other side. You touch the knee, extend back up, squeezing the glutes, activating different muscle groups to do that position. Come back to the other side, this time out, and then can you move the leg and the arm out to the side, bring it back in, moving back out to the side. How does that feel on the body? What are you having to contract and work hard? This is all great feedback, just naturally for the body to know. We'll swap to the other side, extend, move the arm and leg out to the side, come back in, arm and leg out to the side. Good, okay. So we're going to go stay down in this knee hand position again, and this time we're just going to experiment with a few of the rolls. So we're just going to roll round nice big circles across. So we're going to have the contact with the fingers down on the ground, and then we're just going to do some nice big circles over the top, and this is great for just keeping that mobility in those wrists. And do a few circles one way, and then we can just slide around and do a few circles in the other direction. And as you go around, you can just go that little bit faster, or that little bit slower, and see the difference, feel the difference, how the body shifts and turns in that connection. Okay, now we're just going to crawl. Okay, so we're going to keep the knees down on the ground, but we're just going to experiment with moving the hands in different positions around the body. Okay, so underneath, over, stretching out, and just be random with the movement pattern with the hands there. Cross them over, bring them in, extend all the way out as far as you can, come back up. Again, just keeping that back nice and strong. And this is really good for lateral thinking, a little bit of coordination, a little bit of randomness to make the brain work. Spatial awareness. Warming up the system and the brain, but deeply connecting to where we are physically today as well, and that gives us that physical feedback which the body then uses subconsciously to then move around and either engage or not engage with certain activities, because we have that feedback and that knowledge of how to do it and when to do it. Great. Okay, from there we're going to go into this Z sit, side sit position. So we're just going to move down onto the legs here. Okay, we're going to just open the hips up into this internal external rotation, which is so healthy for the body to do. Over here we're just going to experiment with some side twists and movements. So once you're into position, just shift the body from left to right. Just see how that feels, that tightness. Once you've done a couple of those, bow down forwards over the top, lift up nice and high, maybe both hands. And again, just experiment with those different angles. So going over the top of the toes with the head, coming across, see how it feels to drop down towards the side. Okay, a little bit tighter into that position, rotation and moving. And then we're gently just going to move around to the other leg. Again, just going into that 90-90 side position. Okay, and then we're going to rotate first just to loosen the hips off, and then we're going to start with our bowing forwards into it. It doesn't really matter your movement, we're just experimenting again, so putting the body into those different positions each time, dropping that element of perfection. See how the body feels, rotates. Can it do it without the hands on the ground, or do you need to use the hands to stabilize what's happening across the hips and moving through? Okay, So here we're just going to start to now close up the gap. So if you bring the other foot to there, and we're going to go for the swivels. So on this position, we're just going to have the hands down beside us, and we're going to move the hips from left to right. So we're just dropping down, and this action is so great for the body, just to work on the strength but also the mobility through the hips. We hold so much tension, but also it's where an awful lot of our power and strength comes, and we need that movement as well as strength through that range of motion. If you're comfortable there, just try maybe a few without having the hands down on the ground, by drawing yourself up. You tend to move around a little bit on this one, that's okay. Just nice and gently moving from left to right, and then maybe try a couple which are a little bit faster. See how the body responds to the speed, putting a little bit more power in, if that feels good. Okay, twist and rotate, and stretching up and round. Now I want you to just settle down onto one side now, so still keeping that nice close gap in that position. Okay, and then we're just going to come straight up onto the knees by squeezing the glutes, drawing the body up nice and high. Okay, and we're going to drop back down and then squeeze back up again, just pushing up and then squeezing back down into that position. That's lovely. Just to reconnect, I'm just going to keep on going with a few more of those. You need to rotate whilst you're round in the upward position and come back down. Again, just explore those different angles and do those different movements. You still breathing through that nose? Just remind yourself again, check in with that breathing, nice and steady. In and out through the nose. Sinking in with the body. Good. We'll swap over to the other side. And again, just pushing straight up and back down. Just do a few where we're just coming into that straight linear line. Settle with that movement. Feel the glutes activating. Sense where the body's tight. And then just try and go in towards that range of motion. Just flow with the movement. Good. Just a couple more like that. Great. Okay, once you're there, we're just going to move back into that, open the hips up. Okay, we're just going to experiment with moving from left to right. Okay, without putting the hand down on the floor, if you can. If you need to, then just place the hand down on the ground and then just help yourself across, but use those different muscle groups just to twist and turn the hips in the air before placing them back down on the ground, like so. Again, drawing yourself up. See if we can do that a little bit quicker to flow through left and right. A little bit of a kick back in there. If that's too difficult, just slow back down and move back into those hands in that position. Good. Okay, so here we're just going to come back round, and this time we're just going to go into the samurai sit. So we're just curling our toes round into this position, and then we're just going to sit back and relax there. This is fantastic. Just stretching out the base of your foot, that instep, okay, but also the big toe. And the big toe is so important for walking and movement. It's our natural pronation control, and if we don't have that movement through that big toe, like your thumb, then it makes a massive difference to the way that you walk and move. So this is a lovely exercise to see how your feet are feeling at the moment, how tight they are, and then increasing that. If you can't quite sit right the way back onto it, we can increase the stretch by just moving back into that position. If you can't quite do that, just lean forwards. Okay, you can even have your hands on the floor to begin with, just your fingertips or your hands, and then just push the hips back and just gently ease into it. It can be a real stretch to begin with, okay, but just allow the body to settle. Don't overdo it, don't overdrive the nervous system so it goes into panic and then crunch back up. just see where you're at. And some days you're able just to sit right back into it. Some other days you might be tight or full of tension from psychological or physiological reasons, and we just don't know where we're at sometimes. So doing this movement practice will just help us sink into where our body's actually is in its time and space. Keep breathing through that nose. Okay, once we're in that position, we're just going to practice having the hands down on the floor. Okay, and we're just going to move back into that deep squat position. Okay, so I want you just to practice rocking back. The heels don't have to touch the ground. Okay, but we've just got those hands down into that position, and we're sinking nice and deeply into that squat there. Okay, and just see how that feels. And then if you can, if that's feeling quite easy, lift yourself up and just see if we can move back into that position where I'm still leaning forwards to off weight there, that balance and control. And see if we can just engage the core and then move back into that position where the heels drop down into the ground and then slide them back forwards. A little bit more of a challenging movement. Practice, and you feel the pressure and the muscles working down onto there. Come back into moving into that deep squat position. This is so fundamental for back strength, back fluidity, back movement, but also down into the hips and the ankles as well. This low squat position is such a fundamental human position to be in. And you see toddlers in here playing all the time. You're seeing people in the bush who are without chairs and furniture living, and they're squatting down even at the age of 80 in these sorts of nice low positions. And with chairs and tables today, we just forget our bodies can actually move into such deep low positions, and they are incredibly healthy for the body to do. So see where you're at, just come back, and you might have to stay up on the toes to get nice and low down into that position, and if you can, just draw your hands away. Okay, and just sit there. Okay, lift your chest up nice and high, and then just try and sink back onto your heels and see if you can sit back into there. Okay, and see how that feels in that position. Great. So here we're just going to move one foot in front of the other, and we're just going to do the same on one side now. So we're just moving backward and forward with this position. So one foot's in that samurai bent round position, and the other foot's just step forward. We're just driving back and forth into there. Good. And then just swap to the other side. This is great for the ankle strength. Curl the toe round and then just step back into that stretch in that position. Lovely. Okay, here we're just going to come back down. We're going to get our hands back down in contact with the ground again, and here this time we're going to be going to the crawling position. So here we are going to keep the heels on right back, okay, and then the knees right underneath your hips, and then we're just going to lift the hips and the knees just off the ground, just by about an inch or about a few centimeters, and then we're going to hold the core really nice and strong in that position. Okay, and then what we're going to do here is we're going to try and use opposite hand, opposite. Okay, and we're just going to crawl backward and forth. Okay, and then we're going to go sideways, and I want you just to explore the different crawling positions. Core really nice and strong. Try not to twist or turn too much. We're just trying to keep everything nice and still. Have your eyes face down towards the ground, but your peripheral vision isn't taking in all the environment around you. Forward, back, sideways. Just experiment. If you need to, just drop down, have a second rest, and then come back up into that crawl position. We're just doing little nice movements. You can speed it up, you can push the ground far away, nice and strong. Try and feel the connection to the ground with your hands as much as possible as we're learning this crawling position. Again, not about perfect placement. We want to be random with our placement into there. Once we've done that one, we're just going to come back around. We're going to step through and we're just going to go into the inverted crawl. Okay, here we're just literally turning straight back and then we're going to crawl the same. So opposite hand, opposite arm moves and places down on the ground, but we're just working those different sets of muscle groups. To begin with, it's quite difficult. You'll feel the back of the arms having to work really hard to stabilize you, and you have to squeeze the shoulder blades together as well. So it's really good for increasing your posture and those shoulder blades coming back into alignment. Okay, once you get a little bit easier, we can start to experiment with just elevating the hips. Okay, hold that position and then you can just drop back down. Push the hips up nice and high and then just let them drop back down. And then see if you can to move with the hips as high as possible. Again, rotating around different angles, play with the motion. Don't stay stuck in just a linear straight up and down fashion. We want to be twisting, we want to be turning, we want to be moving. Okay, so the inverted crawl is such a powerful position. Come back down, and here now we're going to come back into the crawl position. So we're going to have the hands flat down on the floor, we're going to have the heels, the knees just off, okay, and we're going to practice the transition and we're going to do the kick through. Okay, so I want you to pass one leg through whilst lifting up the opposite hand, and then you're going to come back round into that position, stabilize before coming to the other side. So it's these kick throughs which we're just practicing at the moment. I want it to go nice and slow, nice and steady. Pause for a couple of seconds as the leg is out to the side. You may have to put the foot down on the ground just to stabilize you to begin with, so you learn the motion and then come back, and then you can go a little bit quicker from left to right, and we can start moving forwards and back, or we can kick the leg into different positions, so more forward and see how that feels, more backwards and see how that feels. Okay, it's a great way of just working through the core and get the heart rate up and the movement practice up a little bit. Well done. So the next variation of that is we're going to just follow that round into the reverse crawl. So here we're just using this translational movement, so we're going to kick through, but this time we're going to carry on going until we place the hand down onto the floor. Okay, and then we can kick through, come back into that position, core nice and strong, and then just move the hand all the way around so it touches the ground. And we can come up an arch, that feels good, back down, we can transfer, come up an arch, come back down. Wow. Lovely bit of wind pushing through. Again, just do the variation which you feel right. So it might be just the kick throughs, might be the transitions, where we just come in up and over, or it may be the transition with the overarching stretch, just to really move the body from left to right in there. Okay, that's lovely. So next one, we're just going to come back down, and this time we're going to roll onto our backs. Okay, so here we're just going to be in the seated position, and we're going to come back down onto the ground here. Okay, just allow the body to settle, take it through deep breaths through the nose again, just breathing through the nose, and we're just going to lift the hips up and then roll them in, and just get practicing moving the spine off the ground in that reverse roll. And then this time we're just going to come in, we're going to hug the knees, we're going to roll, we're going to lift up into that seated position, so we're going to roll back up. It's a great way of
just massaging the lower back a little bit. See if it's nice and curved, or is the back flat and you're pancaking back down. Again, it's no judgment to it, it's just where your body's at and what you need to work on to improve that a little bit. It's great. So just rolling through, keep on that roll, and then we're just going to kick and move, come back, roll, lift up one hand, kick and come back. So this time we're using the roll just to move into 2 points of contact. Lift yourself off the ground into there. Again, no pressure with these, but just seeing how the body moves and reacts. One hand down on the ground, moving into that position. So it's just a progression up from the roll. We can start to translate and move into different positions after that rolling position. Okay, so start off with the rolls, and then once you're comfortable with the rolls, we can just start to move the weight forward into the action. As you're bringing it forward, we can step onto one hand and one foot, so you're lifting yourself up into the air, and then we can do something with this leg, so you could just hold that position and come back down, other hand, other leg, and that's a lovely way of just progressing that movement pattern and that tension from left to right. And once you get there, you're nice and stable, and we can start to move the body there. So I'm doing the same side on that one. We could do opposite legs, so there, and then with the opposite leg position we can start to move the leg into different angles down into there. So opposite again, hold, move and pass under. So just experimenting and playing with those movement patterns onto that one. Okay, next here we're just going to get up into a nice standing position. Okay, once you're into that standing position, I want you to come down nice and low. I want you to place one hand on the floor, and we're going to kick the leg out to the side. Okay, once the leg is out to the side there, we're just going to come up into that low squat position, and then we're just going to come back down and place the hand back down onto the floor. Okay, so I'm going to come up, transfer, and then come back down, and come back up, transfer, and come back down. Okay, so it's quite an intense stretch for the inside of there, or stretch or release, but it's a great exercise to do. If you're struggling with this one, then we can just roll forwards, okay, and walk and crawl across before dropping down into that position, and walking across before dropping down into that position there. Okay, that's a lovely feeling of just experimenting with that movement pattern as we go through. This is the last exercise for that flow. So wide legs position, and then just experiment, and we can just drop from side to side through there. In that standing position, we can move up, hands behind the back, and then we can just push the hips backwards, keeping the legs nice and straight, and we'll just feel a lovely stretch through those hamstrings to finally finish off. Nice deep breaths, in and out through the nose, just relaxing there, sinking into the body, asking yourself, how did that feel? Again, don't be critical, don't be over analysing it too much. Your body has learned an awful lot about itself by just doing these movement practices, connecting to the ground, connecting to yourself. And as you practice on a daily basis, you'll just learn so much more about you, physical presence, and how then that interacts with your everyday movement. Great. Okay, coming up to that full stand, giving a bit of a shake off. You can just bounce out that tension, just nice and easy, shaking the legs off, shaking everything out, and we're done. Well done. Okay, hope you enjoyed that, and we'll speak soon.